In the vastness of space, Earth had always been a small, quiet planet. It was one of many in the Milky Way, seemingly insignificant when compared to the grand civilizations that populated the stars. But things were about to change. The Galactic Empire, a powerful force that spanned countless worlds, had set its sights on Earth. The Empire had been watching the planet for centuries, studying its people and their rapid technological growth. They knew Earth wasn't a threat, yet, but they also knew that, in time, humanity might become a powerful force in the galaxy. And the Empire couldn't let that happen. Admiral Xular, a seasoned leader of the Empire's forces, was the one chosen to handle this mission. He was known for his strategic genius and cold, calculated decisions. His orders were clear: arrive in Earth's orbit, deliver an ultimatum, and make sure the planet understood its place in the galaxy. If humanity refused to surrender, the Empire would have no choice but to destroy them. Simple, clean, efficient. As the fleet approached Earth, the ships were like shadows against the black canvas of space. Massive starships, each one a marvel of imperial engineering, slowly drifted toward their target. These ships were designed for speed, power, and intimidation. To anyone who saw them, it was clear that the Empire was not a force to be taken lightly. Xylar stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching the blue and green orb that was Earth grow larger in the viewports. He had seen countless worlds, each one unique in its own way. But Earth felt different. There was something strange about it, something that made him pause for a moment. But he quickly shook off the feeling. He had a mission to complete, and he would not be distracted by the unknown. "Admiral, we are in position," said his communications officer, a tall, thin being from a distant world. Xylar nodded and turned to face the officer. "Prepare the message. It's time." The officer nodded and began typing commands into the console. Moments later, a transmission was sent to Earth, a message intended to let the planet know that the Empire was there, and that they had a choice to make. The message was simple and direct. "This is the Galactic Empire. Earth will either surrender or face the consequences. You have one chance to comply. Do not waste it." There was no threat in the message, not directly. It was just a statement of fact. The Empire was powerful. And Earth, as far as they knew, was not. The message would be clear. The people of Earth would either submit or they would be destroyed. Xylar watched as the transmission was sent, the words floating through space toward the planet below. He didn't expect a quick response. He was certain Earth would panic at the sight of the Empire's fleet and scramble to send a reply. But that was exactly what the Empire wanted. Fear was a tool they used well. And fear, Xylar knew, was often the best way to control a weaker civilization. The minutes passed. Xylar stood motionless, his eyes locked on the blue planet as it spun slowly beneath them. His mind raced through possible outcomes. The Empire was unbeatable. They had destroyed countless civilizations that had dared to challenge them. Earth would be no different. He was sure of it. Then something unexpected happened. Instead of a frantic, fearful message, the reply from Earth was calm, even, peaceful. A single transmission came through, and the words sent a chill down Xylar's spine. "Leave now. This is your only chance." The message was not a plea. It wasn't a request. It was a command. For a moment, Xylar simply stared at the words, trying to process what he was reading. How could this be? How could a primitive planet like Earth, with its small population and limited resources, dare to send such a bold message? He glanced around the bridge. His officers were as confused as he was, their expressions uncertain. Some had been ready to launch an assault on Earth, but now there was a shift in the air. They didn't know how to react to this sudden change. "Prepare a response," Xylar ordered, his voice firm despite the growing unease. "Send them a warning. They'll regret speaking like that." But even as the order left his lips, Xylar couldn't shake the strange feeling that Earth was not what it seemed. This was not how things were supposed to go. The Empire had dealt with hundreds of planets, and none had ever dared to stand against them. The Galactic Empire's fleet loomed large above Earth, its shadows stretching across the blue planet like dark fingers reaching out to claim their prize. Admiral Xylar stood at the helm of his flagship, his mind racing with questions. How could a simple planet respond to his ultimatum so boldly? A small, underdeveloped world like Earth was not supposed to have the audacity to speak back, especially not to an empire that had crushed countless civilizations in its wake. The response from Earth had been clear, direct, and filled with a quiet power that sent ripples through the Empire's ranks. "Leave now. This is your only chance." The words weren't a plea for mercy. They were a statement of defiance. Xylar clenched his fists, his sharp eyes narrowing. "Prepare the fleet. We won't let this go unpunished." The Empire had never backed down. It had never shown weakness, and Xylar, with his reputation for ruthlessness, would not be the one to start that trend. But even as he issued the orders, something gnawed at him. What was it about this Earth, this seemingly insignificant planet, that had made them so confident? What was lurking beneath the surface? He stood still, pondering, until the silence on the bridge was broken by his communications officer. "Admiral, we've received another message from Earth," the officer said, his voice betraying a hint of unease. "Play it," Xylar ordered, his curiosity piqued. The transmission buzzed to life. This time, the message wasn't just words. A calm voice, neither threatening nor fearful, filled the room. "We have no quarrel with you, but we will not submit. This is your final warning. Leave Earth, or you will regret it." Xylar's eyes narrowed further. This wasn't just a message. It was a declaration. The Earthlings were not afraid. They didn't sound like they were playing games. It was as if they had some knowledge, some power that Xylar couldn't see. It made no sense. Earth was primitive. It hadn't even mastered faster than light travel. Yet it was speaking as if it knew it had the upper hand. "Are you suggesting that they've developed some form of advanced weaponry?" Xylar asked his science officer, his voice sharp. The officer, a scientist from the planet Jaxar, looked uneasy as he analyzed the data. "It's possible, Admiral, but the energy readings we've detected are unlike anything we've ever encountered. It's almost as if they're using something ancient, something beyond even our technology." Xylar's frustration grew. "Then why haven't we seen it? Why haven't we felt it?" The officer hesitated, his eyes flicking to his console. "I don't know, Admiral, but something is definitely off about Earth. Its technology is far from advanced by our standards, but their ability to disrupt our communications and systems, it's unlike anything we've encountered." The unease in the room was palpable. The Empire had faced rebellions and wars, but nothing like this. A single world, one they had written off as unimportant, was now making them question everything they knew. "Keep analyzing their signals," Xylar ordered, his voice growing colder. "And prepare for a full assault. If Earth wants to defy the Empire, then we'll show them the consequences." On Earth's surface, the world was still oblivious to the full extent of what was happening in space. But the leaders of the planet had gathered in secret, the message from the Empire still fresh in their minds. A special task force, composed of the brightest scientists and military experts, had been established in the shadows, away from the prying eyes of the public. Humanity had spent centuries advancing its technology, yet it had always been careful to remain under the radar of galactic powers. They had kept their innovations secret, knowing that one day the galaxy would come calling. The time had come. Dr. Emma Langford, a leading scientist in Earth's top-secret military division, stared at the screen in front of her. The signals from the Empire had been intercepted, and the response from the planet had been transmitted. She knew Earth's time of hiding was over. The message had been sent not just to warn, but to signal that humanity was not to be underestimated. "Have you finished analyzing the system?" Emma asked, her voice steady, but filled with urgency. Her team nodded. The system they had built in secret, hidden deep beneath Earth's surface, was ready. It was something no one outside the project knew about, a weapon designed to defend Earth from any threat. No one knew how it worked, not even Emma herself, but she knew it was humanity's only chance. "We're ready," one of the engineers said, his face pale. "We just have to activate it." Emma looked at the control panel. Once they activated the system, there would be no going back. The Empire would either leave Earth alone, or they would never forget the consequences of their arrogance. "Do it," Emma said, her voice calm and commanding. "Activate the system." With a single press of a button, Earth's hidden defense system came to life. Unseen by the Empire, waves of energy pulsed through the planet's core. It was ancient, mysterious, and powerful. Up in space, Admiral Xyler's fleet would soon understand that Earth was not the weak, fragile world they had assumed it to be. The planet was no longer a simple target. It had become an enigma that would take everything the Empire had to unravel. He turned away from the viewports, his mind working quickly. "Signal the fleet. We're going in." As Earth's defenders watched the stars, waiting for the next move, a deep silence fell over the planet. The human race had spent decades, even centuries, building its knowledge and technology, but they had never fully shown their hand to the galaxy. Now, with the Galactic Empire arriving on their doorstep, humanity had to use everything they had learned to protect themselves. The Imperial fleet, massive and intimidating, hung above Earth like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over the world below. Admiral Xylar, aboard his flagship, was still trying to understand what had just happened. The Empire had faced resistance before, but never like this. Earth had not only defied their ultimatum, it had made a clear statement that they weren't afraid. They weren't just a primitive world, they were hiding something powerful. Xylar paced the command deck, his eyes fixed on the screens in front of him. His officers were hard at work, analyzing the strange energy pulses they had detected coming from the planet. The signals didn't make sense. They seemed to be coming from Earth itself, and yet the Empire had never encountered anything like it. "Admiral," the communications officer said, his voice shaking slightly, "we've detected another anomaly. The energy levels are increasing. It's as though something is activating beneath the surface of the planet." Stidler frowned. "What do you mean, activating?" he demanded. "We don't know, sir. The readings are unlike anything we've ever seen. It's almost as if Earth has some form of hidden technology that we've missed." Xylar's frustration grew. He had dealt with rebellions, uprisings, and all manner of challenges, but he had never faced something so elusive. Earth wasn't supposed to have any advanced technology, at least not by Imperial standards. They had barely mastered space travel. How could they be hiding something so powerful? "Prepare a scouting mission," Xylar ordered. "We need to know what's going on down there. Send a team to investigate the planet's surface." The scouting ships descended from the Imperial fleet, sleek vessels that could move silently and swiftly. The plan was simple: send a small team of elite soldiers to one of Earth's remote locations and gather as much information as possible. But as the ships neared the planet, they encountered something unexpected. One by one, the scouting ships began to experience system malfunctions. Communications were cut off. Navigation systems scrambled and weapons systems failed to function. It was as if the planet itself was fighting back, and the Empire's advanced technology was helpless against it. The ships began to lose control, and the mission quickly turned into chaos. Back on Earth, in a hidden underground facility known only to a select few, the system designed to protect the planet was working as intended. Dr. Emma Langford and her team watched the events unfold on their monitors, their faces tense but resolute. They had known this moment would come, and now it was time for humanity to reveal its secret. "Status report," Emma said, her voice calm but full of authority. One of the engineers looked up from his console, his face pale but focused. "It's working, Dr. Langford. The energy pulses are disrupting the Empire's technology. They can't get through to their ships or their systems. They're being blocked." Emma nodded. The system they had created was a product of decades of research, combining ancient technologies with Earth's modern advancements. It was a defense unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, an energy field that could disrupt any form of technology, from communications to weapons. The Empire's fleet might be powerful, but they were no match for the planet's hidden force. "We need to keep it up," Emma said. "As long as we can disrupt their systems, we can buy ourselves time to prepare. We need to make sure they understand that Earth is not to be underestimated." Meanwhile, back in space, Admiral Xylar was seething with frustration. His scouting mission had failed, and the fleet was beginning to suffer the effects of the mysterious energy pulses. His officers scrambled to regain control, but every time they thought they had a solution, the disruptions returned. "Admiral, we've tried everything," the chief engineer said, his voice tight with anxiety. "The planet is interfering with our systems. It's like their technology is somehow blocking ours." Xylar's mind raced. If Earth had such advanced technology, why hadn't they used it before? Why were they hiding it? And why had they waited until now to activate it? "We can't sit here and wait any longer," Xylar growled. "Prepare the fleet for full assault. If they want a fight, we'll give them one." But as he gave the order, something strange happened. The energy pulses from Earth suddenly intensified. The Imperial fleet, already struggling, now began to experience full system failures. Entire sections of the fleet's weapons and shields flickered and shut down, leaving them vulnerable. "Sir," an officer cried, "we've lost all power to the main cannons. Our shields are failing. We can't respond to the energy pulses." Xylar stared at the screens, his eyes wide with disbelief. The Empire, with all its power, was being crippled by a single planet, Earth. His hand clenched into a fist. This was no longer just a mission to conquer a weak world. It had become something else, something far more dangerous. Earth was proving to be a far more formidable opponent than he had ever anticipated. The Empire had underestimated humanity. And now, Xylar could only wonder what other surprises Earth had in store. Admiral Xylar stood at the command deck of his flagship, staring in disbelief at the screens in front of him. The Empire's fleet, once a symbol of absolute power, was now struggling against Earth's mysterious energy pulses. The ships that had once soared through space with unmatched precision were now vulnerable, their systems malfunctioning at an alarming rate. The attacks had come without warning, and now Xylar could only watch as the Empire's might crumble before a simple, primitive planet. "Admiral, we've lost full control of the fleet's power grid," the chief engineer reported, his voice strained with frustration. "The planet's interference is beyond anything we've encountered. Our weapons are offline. Our shields are flickering." Xylar clenched his jaw. It was clear now that Earth had something far more advanced than anyone had realized. He had underestimated them. But this was not the time for regret. The Empire had faced worse challenges and had always emerged victorious. The Earthlings might have caught them off guard, but that would soon change. "Send a signal to the entire fleet," Xylar commanded, his voice cold. "We fight through this. Prepare for a direct assault on Earth's surface. We'll force them to submit." While Xylar rallied his forces for what was sure to be a fierce retaliation, something remarkable was happening on the surface of Earth. Deep beneath the planet's surface, in a hidden facility known only to a select few, Dr. Emma Langford and her team continued to monitor the Empire's progress. Emma had known that this day would come, and she had spent her entire life preparing for it. The energy system they had activated was only one part of Earth's hidden defenses. There were other systems in place, systems that had been designed to protect the planet from forces far greater than the Galactic Empire. What Xylar and his fleet didn't realize was that Earth was far more prepared than they had imagined. "We've detected a surge in their fleet's movement," one of the engineers reported, his face tight with concern. "They're preparing for a full assault. It looks like they intend to land on Earth itself." Emma nodded, her face set with determination. "We need to stop them before they get any closer. Activate the planetary defense system." If they want to land, they'll have to deal with us first. The planetary defense system was a network of powerful satellites that orbited Earth, hidden in plain sight. These satellites were equipped with advanced weaponry and were linked to Earth's mysterious energy pulses. The system had been designed to create a force field around the planet, making it nearly impossible for any enemy to break through. If the Empire wanted to invade, they would first have to deal with the defenses that protected Earth. "System is online," one of the technicians said, his hands flying across the control panel. "We've activated the field. The fleet won't be able to get any closer." Outside, in space, the Imperial fleet began to shift its position. The ships were moving into attack formation, ready to launch their assault. But as they drew closer to Earth's atmosphere, they were met with an unexpected force. The fleet's lead ship, a massive destroyer, was the first to experience the effects of the energy field. Its shields flickered, and for a brief moment, the ship's engines sputtered. The other ships followed suit, one by one, as their systems began to fail under the strain of Earth's defenses. Sylar watched as his fleet's once pristine formations began to fall apart. "Report," Sylar barked. "Admiral, the energy field is disrupting our systems," the communications officer replied. "We're losing control of our navigation. We can't get through the force field." Zylar's face grew darker. This was no longer just a battle for supremacy. It had become a fight for survival. The Empire had always prided itself on its ability to conquer, to break through any defense, to crush any resistance. But now, it was Earth's turn to show that they would not be so easily defeated. "I don't care what it takes," Zylar said, his voice hard with resolve. "We're not backing down. Prepare to deploy the ground forces. We'll storm Earth if we have to. Nothing will stop us." But back on Earth, Emma and her team weren't stopping either. As the energy field intensified, she knew that they were running out of time. The Empire would not give up easily. She looked over at the control panel, where the readings showed the Imperial fleet's movements. They were getting closer, and soon they would be able to breach the atmosphere if the defense systems couldn't hold them back. "Activate the secondary systems," Emma ordered. "We need to push them back, and we need to do it now." The secondary systems were designed as a backup to the primary defense. If the fleet made it past the force field, Earth's final line of defense would kick in. Laser cannons mounted on the surface of the planet, hidden in places where no one would ever think to look. These weapons were capable of targeting and neutralizing ships in orbit, making any further assault on Earth nearly impossible. As Emma's team worked quickly to bring the secondary systems online, the atmosphere around Earth grew tense. The Empire's fleet was still attempting to break through the energy field, and Zylar's orders to deploy ground forces were being prepared. But no matter how hard the Empire tried, they could not penetrate Earth's defenses. The battle was on. Emma's heart pounded as she watched the screens. Every second counted. Earth was showing the Empire that it would not bend or break. And while the Empire might have the numbers and the might, humanity had something far more powerful: the will to protect their home. Admiral Sylar paced the command deck of his flagship, his mind racing. His fleet had been stalled by Earth's mysterious defense system, and despite all his efforts, the Empire's overwhelming power had not broken through. It was as though the planet itself was fighting back. Every system, every weapon the Empire deployed was met with resistance. The confidence that had filled him when he first approached Earth had turned into doubt. "Admiral," the chief communications officer said, breaking the silence, "we've received a message from Earth." Sylar's eyes narrowed. "What now?" he asked, his voice tinged with frustration. The officer hesitated before speaking. "It's a warning, sir. A message directed at you specifically. It says, 'Your time is running out. Leave now, or you will not leave at all.'" Sylar gritted his teeth. "Leave? Are they mocking us? We've been halted for far too long. Prepare the ground forces. We'll crush their defenses, and then Earth will belong to the Empire." But deep down, Siler knew the situation was more complicated than he had anticipated. The ground forces were ready, but Earth's defenses had proven resilient. No matter what he threw at them, they seemed prepared. It was clear that this planet was unlike any other he had encountered. There was something about Earth that made it different. The energy pulses, the unexpected strength, the message, it was all adding up to something he couldn't quite grasp. Back on Earth, in a secure underground facility, Dr. Emma Langford watched the readings on the screen with a mixture of anxiety and determination. The secondary defense systems were online, ready to unleash their devastating power, but she knew they couldn't hold the Empire off forever. Their energy was not infinite, and every second counted. The Empire was relentless, and it would find a way to adapt. "Status report," Emma asked, turning to the team of engineers and scientists working around her. "Everything is holding steady," one of the engineers replied. "The laser defense systems are in position, and we can increase the power to the energy pulses. The Empire's fleet is struggling to get through, but they're not backing down." Emma nodded. "We need to buy more time. If we don't make it through this, the planet's survival will be at risk. We need a solution, and we need it fast." As the team worked around her, Emma couldn't help but reflect on the gravity of the situation. When Earth had first made contact with the Empire, they had been unprepared. Their weapons were outdated, their technology nowhere near the level of galactic powers. But years of secret research and development had given them an edge. The energy systems they had activated were based on a combination of ancient Earth technology and the knowledge they had gained from studying the galaxy's vast network of civilizations. Earth had always been underestimated by the galactic powers. Its people, its resources, even its potential had been overlooked. But now, in their moment of desperation, humanity was showing the galaxy that they could stand up to even the most powerful forces in the universe. They had been pushed to the edge, but they were not going to back down. Meanwhile, on the surface of Earth, the battle was escalating. The Empire's forces had landed in multiple locations, ready to assault and subdue the planet's defenders. But each step they took was met with fierce resistance. The hidden laser cannons, capable of targeting ships in orbit, began to fire, sending beams of intense energy into the sky. The Empire's forces, disoriented and unprepared, found themselves caught off guard as the ground itself seemed to fight back. "Prepare for impact," one of the Empire's commanders shouted, but the warning came too late. A barrage of laser beams hit their positions, causing explosions that shook the ground. The Empire's ground forces were thrown into disarray, and their progress was halted before it could even begin. Admiral Xylar watched the situation unfold from his flagship. His fleet was still trapped in Earth's energy field, unable to advance further, and his ground forces were facing a much stronger defense than he had anticipated. The message from Earth echoed in his mind: "Leave now, or you will not leave at all." For the first time, he began to question whether the Empire could succeed in this invasion. "This is madness," Xylar muttered under his breath. "We are the Empire. We cannot be stopped by a single planet." But Earth was proving him wrong. Back in the underground facility, Emma stood silently as the team continued their work. She could see the struggle on the screens, the growing resistance from the Empire's forces, and the undeniable truth: Earth was not going to fall without a fight. The energy system was holding strong, and the surface defenses were causing significant damage to the Empire's forces. But even Emma knew this was only the beginning. The Empire wouldn't stop. They would regroup, adapt, and come back stronger. "We need to take the fight to them," Emma said, her voice steady despite the pressure. "Activate the counter-offensive protocols. Let's show them what Earth can do." The counter-offensive system was an experimental program, one that Earth's top military minds had designed to turn the tables on their invaders. It was a last-ditch effort, a weapon of sorts that used Earth's natural resources in combination with the energy pulses they had harnessed. The plan was risky, but at this point, they had no other choice. "Counter-offensive systems activated," the engineer reported, his voice filled with anticipation. Suddenly, the energy pulses from Earth intensified, this time directed at the Empire's fleet. Waves of energy began to surge outward, not just disabling the Empire's ships, but causing them to spin out of control. The fleet, which had once seemed so powerful, was now in chaos. Xylar's face twisted in fury as his fleet's ships continued to lose power. His flagship trembled as the energy waves hit, knocking out systems and causing explosions throughout the ship. "This cannot be happening," Xylar muttered, clutching the armrest of his command chair. He could feel the Empire's power slipping through his fingers. Earth was no longer a simple target. It had become a force of its own, a reminder to the Empire that no world, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, should ever be underestimated. Admiral Xylar stood in the command center of his flagship, staring at the holo screens with frustration. His fleet had been thrown into disarray, caught in the mysterious energy web that Earth had unleashed. Ships that once moved with perfect precision were now struggling to maintain course. Their shields were flickering, weapons malfunctioning, and communication systems scrambled. Earth was not simply defending itself. It was fighting back in ways the Empire had never anticipated. "Admiral, the fleet's systems are failing," the chief officer reported, his voice laced with panic. "We've lost contact with 2 of our destroyers. The energy pulses from Earth are overwhelming our defenses." Xylar's face tightened, but his resolve did not waver. The Empire had never known defeat. "Do whatever it takes to regain control. I want those ships back online in 10 minutes. The officer nodded, but Xylar could see the doubt in his eyes. It wasn't just the fleet's systems that were struggling. It was the realization that Earth, a planet the Empire had dismissed as insignificant, was proving to be a formidable adversary. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Emma Langford stood in the heart of the planet's hidden defense control room, her fingers flying across the console. The team of scientists and engineers working alongside her were doing everything they could to maintain the energy shield and coordinate the counterattacks, but the pressure was mounting. "Dr. Langford, the Empire's forces are preparing to land," one of her lead engineers reported, his face grim. "Their ships are about to break through the energy field. We need to deploy the surface defenses immediately." Emma's heart raced, but she didn't hesitate. "Activate the surface defense systems. We can't let them land." Earth's surface defenses were among the most advanced in the galaxy, but they had been designed as a last line of defense, meant to deter threats, not defeat an entire fleet. Now, however, they were Earth's only hope. The weapons were hidden deep within the planet's crust, ready to unleash their devastating power if needed. On the command deck of his flagship, Xylar was losing patience. His fleet was on the verge of breaking through Earth's energy barrier. "Prepare the ground forces. We'll land on Earth and crush their resistance. We've already taken too much damage from their defenses. We can't allow this planet to stand against us any longer." The Empire's ground forces, heavily armed and ready to strike, were deployed to various landing zones across Earth. Their mission was simple: invade and conquer. Xylar was confident that once the Empire's forces touched down, Earth would quickly fall. The resistance might be fierce, but nothing compared to the might of the Galactic Empire. As the fleet moved closer to Earth, the planet's defenses began to react. Emma watched anxiously as the readings on her console showed the approach of the Empire's ships. The energy pulse network, which had been holding steady, flickered. She knew that Earth's energy reserves were limited, and the longer they held off the Empire, the weaker their defenses would become. The surface defenses were activated. Hidden cannons deep in Earth's oceans and deserts surged to life, sending powerful energy beams toward the enemy ships. The beams ripped through the atmosphere, striking the Empire's warships and shaking their very foundations. Explosions erupted as the lasers hit their targets, causing the Imperial ships to lose altitude. "Direct hit to the lead ship," one of Emma's team members shouted. "They're retreating." Xylar's flagship was rocked by the shockwaves of the impact, and he struggled to maintain control. What's happening? Why can't we break through? The officer next to him was pale, clearly shaken. It's their surface weapons, sir. They've activated energy cannons across the planet. We can't break through their defense grid. We've lost our advantage. Glylar clenched his fists in frustration. The situation was slipping beyond his control. His fleet, once a symbol of the Empire's power, was now struggling to maintain its position against a planet that had seemed so insignificant just days ago. As the battle raged on, Emma's team worked tirelessly, coordinating the defense efforts. Despite their best efforts, Emma knew that Earth could not hold out indefinitely. The Empire's forces were too vast. They could overwhelm Earth eventually. But she refused to give up. "We need to buy more time," she said, her voice steady. "Activate the backup systems. If they can't be stopped in space, we'll make sure they can't land." Her team scrambled to activate the backup defenses, an emergency program designed to deal with large-scale ground invasions. It used Earth's natural resources, combining them with the energy pulses to create shockwaves that could disrupt anything trying to land. The backup system was a risky move, one that had never been tested under such pressure, but Emma knew it was their last hope. The ground forces of the Empire, already on the surface in strategic locations, were about to encounter Earth's new weapon. As they descended into Earth's atmosphere, the shockwaves began. The Earth shook beneath their feet as the newly activated systems created massive tremors, knocking the Empire's forces off balance. Some of their vehicles were disabled, while others were sent tumbling in all directions. "Retreat! Fall back!" the Empire's commanders shouted. But it was too late. The shockwaves kept coming, forcing the invaders to abandon their positions and scramble to safety. Tylar watched from space, his jaw clenched in disbelief. "How are they doing this?" he muttered. "This is impossible." But for Earth, it wasn't impossible. It was survival. They had learned from the mistakes of other worlds. They had prepared for this day. And now, Earth was showing the Empire that even the most advanced civilizations had something to fear. Earth wasn't just defending its home. It was proving to the galaxy that it would not fall to invaders, no matter how powerful they were. The message was clear. Underestimating Earth had been the biggest mistake the Empire had ever made. The battle above Earth had reached a critical point. Admiral Xylar's fleet, once so confident in its superiority, was now in disarray. The Empire's ships, having endured multiple direct hits from Earth's surface defenses, were retreating. The ground invasion had stalled, their troops caught in a planet-wide counterattack that they were unprepared for. Tylar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his mind racing. "Admiral, our fleet is being pushed back." The communications officer's voice trembled as he relayed the troubling news. Tylar's expression hardened. This was not how it was supposed to be. The Empire had faced countless challenges, but they had always prevailed. Now, one small planet was making them question everything. The fear of defeat gnawed at him. He had never experienced anything like this. "We need to adapt," Tylar said, his voice low but firm. "Recalibrate the fleet's energy shields. Focus all power on getting through their defenses. Prepare for a full assault on their capital." His orders rang out through the command center, but in the back of his mind, doubt crept in. How much longer could his fleet last? How much longer could Earth's defenses hold? He had underestimated this planet, its people, its technology, and its will to survive. Far below, on the surface of Earth, Dr. Emma Langford stood watching the planet's defense systems with a sense of urgency. The surface had been rocked by repeated shockwaves from Earth's new defensive measures, but the Empire wasn't giving up. Their ground forces were reorganizing, preparing for another assault. Emma's team worked tirelessly to keep the defense systems online, but the pressure was mounting. Every moment, they were losing more energy from their reserves. "Dr. Langford, the backup power grid is running low," one of her engineers reported, sweat dripping down his face. "If we don't find a way to replenish it, we won't be able to maintain the defense systems for much longer." Emma clenched her fists. They had known this moment would come. The backup power was never meant to be a permanent solution, but a temporary one. Earth's resources were not endless, and the Empire's forces were relentless. Yet she couldn't let them know they were on the brink of exhaustion. Not yet. Focus on the energy reserves, Emma said calmly, though she could feel the weight of her words. We need more time. We need to hold out until reinforcements arrive. She knew that reinforcements were unlikely to come in time. Earth had no allies in this fight. They were on their own. The next few hours would determine whether the planet would survive or be crushed under the weight of the Empire's forces. As the ground forces of the Empire regrouped, their commanders ordered a new strategy. They would focus on a more coordinated attack, targeting Earth's remaining energy sources. They knew the planet's defenses were powered by a vast network of underground facilities, and if they could cripple those, the surface defenses would fall. The Empire's soldiers moved swiftly, gathering near these key locations, preparing for an assault that would crush humanity's last line of defense. On the surface, Emma and her team worked frantically to counter the Empire's moves. They had no illusions. They knew the Empire's forces were too powerful. The only hope they had was to keep the invaders occupied long enough for some sort of miracle to occur. But miracles were rare in war, and Emma's hope was quickly fading. In the control room, Emma stared at the holographic map of Earth, watching as the Empire's forces closed in on their most vulnerable points. The situation was dire, and every decision she made from here on out could be the difference between survival and defeat. We have one last option, Emma said, her voice steady. The EMP device. One of the senior engineers, a man named Alan, looked at her with confusion. The EMP device, but it's a last resort weapon. If we activate it, we'll wipe out all electronic systems on Earth. I know, Emma said, but if we don't use it, we'll lose everything. We need to take out their fleet and ground forces in one stroke. We'll disable their communication systems, their weapons, everything. It's a risk, but it's the only one we have left. Alan hesitated, his mind racing. If we do this, we'll have no way to defend ourselves afterward. Earth's entire infrastructure will be crippled. Emma nodded. We'll deal with that later. Right now, we need to survive this fight. The team scrambled to prepare the EMP device, which was hidden deep within Earth's military facilities. The device had been a secret project, one of the planet's last lines of defense in case of an alien invasion. It was designed to send an electromagnetic pulse across the entire planet, wiping out all electrical systems. It would leave Earth vulnerable in the aftermath, but it would also disable the Empire's ability to wage war against them. As the EMP device was activated, Emma felt a surge of hope. The countdown had begun, and she knew it was their final chance. The clock was ticking down, and soon, Earth would either emerge victorious or face total annihilation. Above, Admiral Xylar watched as the situation on the surface escalated. He had underestimated Earth, but he was not prepared to admit defeat. The last of his fleet was getting ready for the final push. As his ships moved into position, a strange feeling gnawed at him. He had always believed that nothing could stand in the way of the Empire, but Earth was proving him wrong. The people of this planet were willing to fight for their home, and that made them more dangerous than any other civilization he had faced. Just as Xylar's fleet readied itself for the final assault, the unexpected happened. A wave of electromagnetic energy swept across the planet, short-circuiting the Empire's fleet and ground forces. Ships began to falter, their systems crashing. Communication between the forces broke down completely. Emma's heart raced as she watched the readings on her console. The EMP had worked. The Empire's forces were momentarily paralyzed, their advantage lost. But this was only the beginning. Emma knew that they had just bought themselves a little time. The true test was yet to come. The EMP pulse had been a success, but Earth was far from safe. The battle was not over yet. Admiral Xylar's fleet was crippled, their systems in chaos, but they were far from defeated. As the electromagnetic pulse wreaked havoc on the Empire's forces, Earth's defenses were momentarily silent. This gave the soldiers on the ground and in space a rare opportunity to regroup, but time was running out. Xylar stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the malfunctioning systems on the screens. His fleet was vulnerable, and Earth has shown its strength. He could not afford to let this minor setback turn into defeat. "Get the backup systems online, now," Xylar barked. The crew scrambled to work, but the damage was extensive. It would take time to get their weapons and shields back up to full power. Back on Earth, Dr. Emma Langford watched the screens closely, knowing the respite would be short-lived. The EMP had bought them valuable time, but the Empire's forces were too vast and too powerful to stay down for long. "We can't just wait for them to recover," Emma said, her voice determined. "We need to act fast. Activate the secondary defense grid." Her team quickly set to work, turning on every available resource to slow the Empire's advance. The secondary grid was a last-ditch effort, but it was powerful enough to deal a significant blow. Earth had hidden weapons, hidden defenses. They had to pull them all out now, for this was the final stand. In the skies above, the Empire's ships were recovering. Slowly but steadily, they were restoring their systems, each repair giving them more strength to strike back. Xylar was not ready to admit defeat, not yet. His fleet was being restored, and with each passing moment, they were getting closer to retaking control. "We're almost back online, sir," the chief engineer reported. "Shields are operational. Weapons are coming online now." Xylar nodded, his eyes cold and calculating. "Good. Prepare to engage Earth's defenses once more. We'll break through this time." But Earth wasn't going to wait. Emma knew they couldn't afford another round of battles. They had to finish this now. "Activate the emergency response system," Emma ordered, her voice firm. "We need to disable their fleet before they can regroup." The emergency system was a final measure Earth had never hoped to use. It was an all-or-nothing approach. Earth had already used its most powerful weapons, but now they needed to shift to something more desperate. Emma knew the risk. If it worked, they could cripple the Empire's fleet for good. If it failed, Earth would be exposed and defenseless. As Earth's backup systems engaged, an energy field began to form around the remaining ships in the Empire's fleet. The energy field was a concentrated wave of force, designed to target the most sensitive parts of enemy vessels: engines, weapon systems, and communication hubs. It would only last for a short time. But that was all Earth needed. Xylar's fleet was just recovering, their shields flickering back to life when the energy field hit. The concentrated pulse of force slammed into their ships, destabilizing their engines and causing critical failures. One by one, the ships were torn from the skies, unable to respond. "What's happening?" Xylar shouted in disbelief, gripping the railing as his flagship rocked. "The fleet is being destroyed." The crew scrambled to maintain control, but the damage was severe. The Empire's greatest ships were now little more than drifting wrecks, disabled by Earth's final weapon. On Earth's surface, Emma and her team watched the live feeds of the battle from space. For a brief moment, there was silence. The Empire's forces were losing control. "We did it," one of her engineers whispered, his voice full of awe. "It's over. The fleet is gone." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she knew it wasn't truly over yet. The Empire was not a force to be underestimated. Even if their fleet was disabled, Xylar and his forces would not go down quietly. There was still the matter of the ground invasion. On the surface, the Empire's ground forces, though scattered, had not yet been completely defeated. Their remaining troops were still fighting in the cities, still trying to gain control of Earth. But they were no match for the fully charged defense systems now in place. "Activate the orbital defense lasers," Emma ordered. Earth's final weapon was in position, a series of high-powered lasers capable of incinerating anything on the ground. The lasers were precise and devastating, and they had been kept hidden for moments just like this. Within minutes, the first wave of ground invaders was hit by the orbital lasers. The precision and power of the strikes left nothing but smoldering wreckage. The remaining invaders, now realizing they were facing Earth's full wrath, began to retreat. Their forces were disorganized, their morale shattered. "Admiral Xylar, we've lost control," a trembling officer reported. "The ground forces are being wiped out. The ships can't recover in time. We need to retreat." Xylar's face darkened. The defeat was undeniable. He had underestimated Earth, and now the consequences were clear. "We're done here," Xylar muttered, a mix of anger and disbelief in his voice. "Prepare to retreat. Get us out of here." As the Empire's fleet slowly retreated, Earth's skies cleared for the first time in days. The planet had held its ground, with every inch of its soil fought for and protected. Though the cost had been high, Earth had proven its resilience, its strength, and its refusal to bow before anyone. Emma stood with her team, looking at the calm skies above. Earth had won, but at what cost? There was still much to rebuild, and the fight would always be remembered. Yet for now, Earth had sent a message across the stars. It would never surrender.